Hey, you guys. Hello, hello, hello. So it's late for me. I usually have um, this is usually done way before this. Anyway, it's late. What a day. I've been a bit of a day of service. Just, yeah, had some stuff that needed to get looked after today, and so I have been out there just doing it, and never got to do this what I've been doing every day earlier. And so, what came up from my experience today, I was, you know, working with some different people and listening to their interpretation of what was happening in their life, and I saw what was happening in their life as a real gift. It was like, my gosh, an opportunity, a real possibility for change. And their mind, this person's mind, was analyzing the situation as a problem, not as a gift. And it was interesting that our ego, and most of us are living from that, is always analyzing and judging and doing it best it can to figure out what's going to happen next, and looking for danger and looking for possible loss. And so where does that come from? Now, I don't know how this happened for most of us. Yeah, hi. Well, I don't know how this happens for most of us, but many of us were wired this way, and so that somehow the ego sees everything as about us, and how do we shift that? How do we shift from a me-based situation to a we-based, or to a service-based, or to a love-based situation? And what's required is a complete psychic change. And I was just sitting here thinking about this, and how would I, yeah, maybe. So Wanda's saying we're parrots until we become eagles, and that's a metaphor for sure. But it seems that many of us are, the results we're having in our life are not satisfactory. We're living in fear. We're living in this fellow I worked with today was literally living on the street, literally, and had an opportunity to find a place to be, but was still analyzing, who was going to be there and what was going to happen, and but that's ego. It's just so fear-based, and because for many of us, then mostly I'm talking about addicts and alcoholics, and this might not be you, and although we're often addicted to something, whether it's food or, you can look for whatever the addiction is in your life. But the basis of the troubled alcoholic, the second half of step one is that we were powerless over whatever it was that we were addicted to, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or food, or sex, but the second half of step one is that our life was unmanageable. And okay, basically we can't trust our own thinking. Our life is unmanageable because our thinking was based on ourselves, on a selfish way. So here we are living life, and everything is we're analyzing and judging and making up story about everything is related to ourselves. Because, and this is out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous on page 62, is the crux of the deal. This is the crux of the deal. This is where it starts for us. This whole book, by the way, was given to me by my brother, Christmas 1978. It's a third edition. And so on page 62 in the book, and this is the thing that we have to deal with. Anybody can quit drinking or quit using. It's staying quit. And so how do we stay quit? Well, we have to change the way we think. How do we change the way we think? Well, we can't do it, most of us, by trying, because it's in the structure of our thoughts. It's inherent. It's who we are, and so we need a psychic change. We need and this piece I'm going to read to you is the deal. And if you're looking around, and not many of you are going to like this because this puts the responsibility back on us. But on page 62 it says selfishness and self-centeredness. That we think is the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. That's the deal right there. We are inherently selfish. The world is, we feel an unsafe place because we're always looking for problems. We're built this way. Somehow, trauma, whatever happened. I'm not saying the whole planet is like this, but for the most part, we're living in fear, and we're measuring and trying to be a step ahead, or trying to understand, or making up story from a mind that can't be trusted because it's based on selfishness. Sometimes, it says here, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation. But we invariably find that at some time in the past we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So we did shit. And we did it because we're coming from this selfish place. So our troubles, we think, it says in this amazing book that saved millions of lives, our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourself. And the addict, the alcoholic, is an extreme example of self-will run riot. Self-will run riot. Hi, Jennifer. So that's it. It's back on us. How do we change this? Because first of all, most of us don't believe this. We think that it's the world, not us. That other people have wronged us. Other people haven't shown up. Other people, and so most of us don't believe this. But this is the deal. That millions of people who have gotten this. This is the second half of step one. When you get this, you realize that holy shit, I've created this from my crazy mind. My mind can't be trusted because it's basically selfish and self-centered. So they arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic, the addict, is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Right? Above everything, we, the addict, the alcoholic, must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. Boom. That's it. So there isn't any ambiguity in this. We must, or it kills us. This is the deal. This is the turning point in the recovery program, because we go from there and we realize that we must have a higher power in our life. We must find some thing that we can believe in that's greater than ourselves. So God, it says, makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of selfishness and self-centeredness without his aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them, even though we would like to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying our own power. We had to have God's help. This is the relationship, right? Hey, this is the relationship. So, hear this, that our life, nothing's going to change. We're always going to be this, feeling like we're getting the shitty end of the stick, if you will, because we're selfish and self-centered. And it started for many of us at such a young age. We think that's just who we are. But there's a method here, there's a process here that can relieve us of this. There really is. And it starts right here of recognizing that we are this. This is the second half of step one. My life is unmanageable. I cannot trust my thinking because it's basically selfish and self-centered. I cannot trust my thinking because it's basically selfish and self-centered. So they point the direction towards a higher power. Now, love could be your higher power. There's many concepts of God. It says here, we had to have God's help. This is the how and the why. But first of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. That's a concept. And it's the beginning of opening the door for recovery. It's the beginning of opening the door for recovery. And ego will come in there and say, yes, but I want to do it my way. Yes. Well, my way doesn't work because my way is always selfish and self-centered. And if we don't get this in the recovery process, we don't get recovery because there's no sense in doing the rest of the steps. There's no way we'll give them lip service, but this is really, really, this is the crux. So God is going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father. We are his children. So those are three concepts they give us of this higher power. But there's many more in this book. And he's the father. We are his children. Most good ideas are simple. And this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. I love this next paragraph because this is the deal. If we don't build this relationship, if we don't change our innermost self, and this came, if you read the previous pages here, it talks about how we got there and how Dr. Young had directed us in this direction and recognized that without this psychic change, spiritual solution, the addict is doomed. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer, another concept. I love that one, actually. We had a new employer, being all-powerfully provided what we needed if we kept close to him, performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, That's the promise. We became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs, which were basically from fear in trying to get. So our little plans and designs started to fall away. More and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. More and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. That's the shift begins to happen. How can I give? How can I serve? How can I give back? How can I help? Because lots of people need to be loved and helped, and we can do that. As we felt new power flow in, this is the promise of step 3, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence. So we start to feel, we get a God sense. We get go from being self-centered to God-centered. We feel his presence in however you define that. Which is beautiful part of this program is it's wide open. There's no concept that this is the only way. This is however we define that higher power. It says, so we felt new power flow in as we enjoyed peace of mind, a promise, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, the hereafter, we were reborn. That's the crux, and maybe I'll read that some more as we go along, because if we don't get that, we just think we can change our circumstance, or we can, and from changing our circumstance, we think that life will change. But it isn't the circumstance. We need a fundamental shift from what about me to how can I help? How can I serve? How can I be part of the solution, part of life's love, as opposed to life's fear? So that's as clear as I can say it today, that if you look at your life and you think, gee, my relationships aren't working, I'm not happy, my kids aren't turning out the way they want, all kinds of complaint, I'm too fat, whatever you think, if you look at it and say, it's not working, just recognize that it begins with us. And it's not just about changing, our attitude in a simple way. It's a fundamental shift. We go from what's in it for me to how can I serve thee? And it's a beautiful way to live. That's it. So that's my chat today. And as many of you know, I also read from this little book every day. So I've kind of a double read today. One from the big book. We call it the big book fondly. We call it the big book of AA. So I've read from that now. Right now, I'm going to just read for a moment from this book, which is a 24-hour day book, and there's always some great stuff in here. This is August the 11th. Thought for the day. While, it says, while an alcoholic keeps strictly away from drink, he reacts to life much like other men. But the first drink sets a terrible cycle in motion. An alcoholic usually has no idea why he takes the first drink. Some drinkers have excuses with which they are satisfied, but in their hearts they really do not know why they did it. The truth is, at some point in their drinking, they have passed into a state where the most powerful desire to stop is of little avail. So we just can't stop, but we also can't stop being a selfish, self-centered thinker either on our own. So often, literature focuses on the drinking or the whatever it was that we were doing, whatever their symptoms were, whether it was gambling. A lot of people get the same high out of gambling as they got out of drugs and alcohol, or porn, or work even. So we can be have addictive behaviors in a lot of different areas. Anyway, that was the thought for the day. Meditation for the day. It says, he who made the ordered world out of chaos and set the stars in their course and made each plant to know its season. He who made the ordered world out of chaos and set the stars in their course and made each plant to know its season. He can bring peace and order out of your private chaos if you will let him. So notice, again, we're talking concepts. Him is a concept. Even, he is a concept. Even the word God is a concept, right? Hey, how you guys? Jennifer, Barb, how you guys? So recognize that this idea of a higher power is much bigger than many of the concepts, but this is where we start, right? We can eventually realize that it's everything. We are in it. We are in it. It's beautiful. But our idea of selfishness, our selfish fear ideas have separated us from this, our natural state. So, okay, not true. It says God is watching over you too, to bless you and care for you. So again, it's a concept because we need to talk in this way, right? But life is love. Love is life. And God is love. So we're surrounded in it. It's not something separate from us, that we look outside of ourselves to see if we can see God. We are it. It's all of us. It's in every cell of every being. It's love. But ego somehow seems to separate us from it. Fear seems to separate us from it. He is leading you to light, out of unrest to rest, out of disorder to order, out of faults and failure to success. You belong to God. Well, we do, yeah. And your affairs are his affairs and can be ordered by him if you are willing. So it's true as we move out of living in fear and anger and guilt and shame and desire, we live in intuition and we live in grace and we live in a beautiful state of peace that can come. It's our natural state. It's not something that we have to earn. Just have to leave the other behind. And this comes. And we want to serve. We want to help others. We want to share the love. So it's a beautiful way. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be led out of disorder. I pray that I be led out of disorder into order. I pray that I may be led out of failure into success. So 1954, this was written, this little book. It's kind of a cute little book. And I've been reading it now since the 1st of May to you guys. Okay, love you lots. Thank you. I'm going to take a minute and I'll put this on YouTube. So I'd love it if you guys would go to YouTube and follow or subscribe to our page there on YouTube, which is Valley and Beyond. Yeah, Valley and Beyond. Project Awakening. Okay, you guys. Love you lots. Thanks so much for everything. Okay, gotta go. Bye.